Silence. For a few moments, there's nothing but stillness. Then, that voice in your head, the one that narrates your life, reacts to everything, and never seems to stop. What if that voice isn't actually you? Most people spend their entire lives identified with their thoughts, completely unaware that they're trapped inside them. The mind runs on autopilot, analyzing, judging, replaying the past, and worrying about the future. It feels normal, but this constant mental noise is actually the root of suffering. There's a way out. Eckhart Tolle's teachings point to something beyond the endless stream of thoughts. Something deeper, quieter, and far more powerful. It's what he calls superconscious awareness, a state of presence where you're no longer controlled by the voice in your head, but instead become the observer of it. I know how overwhelming it can be to live with an overactive mind. There was a time when I felt completely stuck, lost in worries, caught up in self-doubt, unable to find peace no matter how much I tried to fix my thinking. Then I came across Tolle's teachings and everything shifted. It wasn't about thinking better thoughts or forcing my mind to be quiet. It was about stepping outside of thought altogether. Today, we're going to explore how this shift can happen for you. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand what superconscious awareness is, you'll feel it. We'll break down why most people are unknowingly trapped in unconscious patterns of suffering. The exact difference between ordinary thought and true presence. Practical ways to step into superconscious awareness starting right now. The profound transformations that unfold when you no longer mistake your mind for who you are. This isn't just theory. It's a direct experience waiting for you. And once you glimpse it, you'll never see yourself or life the same way again. Let's begin. Have you ever felt trapped by your own thoughts? Not just thinking, but completely caught up in an endless loop of worries, regrets, and mental noise that never stops? If so, you're not alone. Most people live this way without realizing it. Eckhart Tolle describes this as the state of unconsciousness, not in the sense of being physically asleep, but in the sense that people are asleep to the present moment, lost in the mind's constant chatter. The problem isn't just that we think too much. The real problem is identification with thought, the belief that the voice in our head is who we are. This identification is what keeps us trapped. Try something right now. Close your eyes and, for the next 10 seconds, simply count how many thoughts pop into your mind. Pause. What happened? Chances are, thoughts rushed in without you even trying. One after another, they appeared, pulling your attention in different directions. Maybe you thought about something you need to do later. Maybe a random memory surfaced. Maybe your mind even judged this exercise itself. This is silly, or I don't see the point. This is what Tolle calls being possessed by thought. Thoughts don't just come and go. They take over. Instead of seeing them as temporary mental events, we mistake them for reality. And this is where suffering begins. When you're lost in thought, life isn't happening here and now. It's happening in a mental projection of the past or future. The mind clings to painful memories, replays conversations, creates imaginary arguments, and anticipates future problems that don't even exist yet. The present moment, the only place where life actually happens, gets completely overlooked. Tolle introduces a powerful concept called the pain body, an accumulation of past emotional pain that feeds on new suffering. Think about a time when something small triggered an outsized emotional reaction in you. Maybe someone made an offhand comment, and suddenly you felt anger rising up out of nowhere. Or maybe you woke up feeling down for no reason at all. This is the pain body in action. It's not just emotions. It's old pain stored in your being, looking for more negativity to sustain itself. The pain body thrives when we identify with it. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "I'll never be free from this feeling," you've felt its grip. It makes suffering feel personal, as if it defines you. But here's the truth. You are not your pain. The moment you start to observe your emotions instead of being consumed by them, something shifts. You create space between yourself and the pain body. Instead of reacting blindly, you start to see what's happening. This simple awareness weakens its hold. How thought creates an illusion of self. The more we identify with thoughts and emotions, the more we build a false sense of self. Tolle calls this the egoic mind, the voice that constantly compares, defends, worries, and constructs stories about me versus the world. It might sound like, I need to prove myself so people respect me. I can't let go of what they did. It's unforgivable. If I don't succeed, I'll never be happy. This egoic voice isn't who we are, it's just conditioned mental patterns. But because it speaks in first person, we believe it. We assume that whatever the mind says must be true, simply because we hear it. This is the fundamental illusion Tolle's teachings expose. You are not the thinker. You are the one aware of thinking. The moment you recognize this, even for a split second, you step out of unconsciousness. You see the mind as just another phenomenon, like clouds passing in the sky. Some are dark, some are light, but none of them define the sky itself. The question is, how do we go from being trapped in the mind to experiencing this awareness more often? That's exactly what we'll explore next. If being lost in thought creates suffering, then what happens when we step beyond thought? Eckhart Tolle describes this shift as moving from ordinary consciousness to superconscious awareness, a state of being fully present, deeply still, and connected to something beyond the thinking mind. But what does that actually mean? To understand this, let's first look at the nature of ordinary consciousness, the state most people live in without realizing it. Most people assume that thinking is the highest function of human intelligence. But Tolle reveals something surprising. True intelligence arises in the absence of compulsive thought. Here's why. In an ordinary state of consciousness, thoughts dominate everything. The mind jumps from one thing to another, forming opinions, reacting emotionally, and filtering reality through past experiences. This creates a mental fog where everything is distorted by interpretation. Superconscious awareness, on the other hand, is a state of pure presence. Instead of being lost in thought, you witness thought. You step outside the constant mental chatter and enter a deeper intelligence, one that is still, expansive, and free. The key difference? Ordinary consciousness equals thought controls you. The superconscious awareness equals you observe thought without getting lost in it. This shift from identification with thought to awareness of thought is at the core of Tolle's teachings. Eckhart Tolle wasn't always in this state of presence. In fact, for most of his early life, he suffered from intense anxiety and depression. But then something remarkable happened. One night, at the lowest point of his suffering, he had a realization. I can't live with myself any longer. Then suddenly, another thought arose. Who is this I that can't live with myself? That single question shattered everything. He saw for the first time that there were two aspects of him. 1. The voice in his head, the conditioned mind, full of worries and fears. 2. The awareness that was observing it. For the first time, he woke up from thought and entered a state of deep presence. The relentless mental noise disappeared. What remained was peace, an unshakable sense of stillness. This wasn't intellectual understanding. It was a direct experience of superconscious awareness. And from that moment on, his life was never the same. The simple truth that changes everything. Tolle's awakening might sound dramatic, but the core truth behind it is simple. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This might sound abstract, but you can experience it right now. Try this. Look around the room you're in. Pick any object. A cup, a book, a plant. Instead of labeling it with thought, just observe it. Notice its shape, its texture, the way light falls on it. For a brief moment, your mind is silent. You're just aware. That silence? That's superconscious awareness. It's not something you have to create. It's already there, underneath all the thinking. The moment you shift from thinking about life to simply experiencing life, you access it. Why this state feels so profound. When people glimpse superconscious awareness, They often describe it as feeling deeply peaceful, expansive, or even blissful. Why? Because it's the absence of resistance. In ordinary consciousness, thoughts constantly create friction. The mind resists the present moment, wanting things to be different than they are. It clings to worries, judgments, and mental noise. But in superconscious awareness, that resistance dissolves. There's no fight, no mental struggle, just a deep acceptance of what is. And from that space, an entirely new way of living becomes possible. The difference between an ordinary person and someone like Eckhart Tolle isn't intelligence or knowledge. It's that one is lost in thought, while the other has recognized the power of presence. This is what makes his teachings so transformative. He's not offering more concepts or beliefs. He's pointing to something beyond belief. A direct experience of reality without mental interference. The question is, how do you cultivate this awareness in daily life? That's exactly what we'll explore next. Superconscious awareness isn't just an idea. It's something you can experience directly. But how do you step beyond the constant pull of thought and actually access this state? Eckhart Tolle doesn't offer complex theories or philosophies. His approach is simple, direct, and practical. The key isn't to fight the mind, but to shift attention in a way that dissolves identification with thought. Let's break it down into 3 powerful practices that will help you awaken to this deeper state of presence. 1. The power of now technique. If there's one core teaching from Tolle's work, it's this. The present moment is the gateway to true awareness. Most people spend their lives caught in either the past or the future. The mind constantly replays memories, regrets, and old wounds, or it projects into the future, worrying about what's next. But none of that is real. The only thing that truly exists is this moment. Right now. Tolle calls this the now, and he describes it as the only point of true power. How to practice it? Right now, bring all of your attention to the present moment. Feel your breath entering and leaving your body. And notice the sensations in your hands. Listen to the sounds in your environment without labeling them. For a few seconds, your thoughts fade into the background. You are just here, present. This is the first glimpse of superconscious awareness. The key is not to make this a temporary exercise, but a way of living. Whenever you catch yourself lost in thought, gently bring attention back to this moment. The more you do this, the more awareness expands and thought loses its grip. 2. Body awareness meditation. Tolle often says that the body is an anchor to presence. This is because thought happens in the mind, but awareness can be grounded in physical sensation. One of the simplest ways to move beyond compulsive thinking is to shift attention from the head to the body. How to practice it? 1. Close your eyes and feel the energy inside your hands. 2. Don't move them, just sense their presence. 3. Now extend that awareness to your feet, then your legs, then your entire body. As you do this, something shifts. Thoughts quiet down. A stillness emerges. Why? Because thoughts exist in time, but body awareness exists in the present. This practice is incredibly powerful for breaking free from overthinking. Anytime you feel overwhelmed, shift focus to the body. It immediately brings you back to presence. 3. Conscious breathing. One of the fastest ways to shift into superconscious awareness is through the breath. Breath is always happening in the present. You can't breathe in the past or the future. By focusing on it, you automatically step out of compulsive thinking. How to practice it? 1. Take a deep breath in, paying full attention to the sensation of air entering your body. 2. Exhale slowly, feeling the breath leaving. 3. Continue this for a few minutes, keeping awareness on the entire process. If thoughts arise, don't resist them. Just notice them, then gently return to the breath. This isn't just a relaxation technique. It's a portal to presence. It trains the mind to disengage from constant thinking and settle into awareness. These practices may seem simple, but their power lies in consistency. Superconscious awareness isn't something to achieve. it's something to recognize. It's already present beneath the noise of thought. The more you bring attention to the now, to body awareness, and to the breath, the more this state of deep presence becomes natural. And once that shift happens, life takes on an entirely new quality. One that is free, peaceful, and deeply awake. Why does superconscious awareness matter? What happens when you step beyond compulsive thinking and live in presence? Eckhart Tolle doesn't just present this as an interesting concept. He describes it as a fundamental shift that changes everything. And it's not just spiritual philosophy. Modern science backs it up. When presence becomes your natural state, profound transformations take place. Psychologically, emotionally, and even physically. Let's explore the key benefits of awakening to this higher state of awareness. 1. Freedom from mental suffering. Most suffering isn't caused by external events. It comes from thoughts about those events. The mind constantly revisits painful memories, projects fears into the future, and creates endless stories about what should or shouldn't be happening. But here's the truth. Suffering is not in the present moment. When you step into presence, you see thoughts for what they are, just passing mental noise. The identification with them fades, and with it, much of the suffering dissolves. People who practice superconscious awareness often report less anxiety and overthinking, a deep inner peace, even in difficult situations, the ability to let go of past pain more easily. This doesn't mean challenges won't arise, but your relationship with them changes. Instead of being trapped in thought-based suffering, you respond to life from a place of clarity and calm. 2. Enhanced emotional intelligence. When you are lost in thought, emotions tend to control you. But when you are deeply present, you observe emotions without being consumed by them. This leads to a greater emotional resilience. You don't get overwhelmed easily. A more patience and understanding, especially in relationships. Freedom from reactive behavior. Instead of getting triggered, you respond consciously. Imagine being able to feel emotions without getting lost in them. You experience joy, sadness, or frustration, but you don't become them. They arise, pass through, and dissolve, like clouds moving across the sky. This is one of the most powerful shifts that happens when superconscious awareness becomes your default state. 3. A stronger mind-body connection. Scientific research has shown that mindfulness and presence have direct physical benefits, including lower stress levels, reduced inflammation, a better immune function, improved sleep quality. Tolle's teachings align with what neuroscience now confirms. When you stop over-identifying with thoughts, your body moves out of chronic stress mode and into a state of deep rest and repair. Breathing becomes slower, tension fades, and the body begins to function at an optimal level. Many people who integrate presence into their daily lives report fewer headaches, better digestion, and an overall sense of lightness in their body. 4. Sharper focus and creativity. Superconscious awareness isn't about detaching from life. It actually makes you more engaged and effective. When the mind is filled with endless thoughts, focus becomes scattered. But in a state of presence, awareness becomes clear and undistracted. This leads to increased productivity and efficiency, a greater creativity and intuition, the ability to fully immerse in tasks without distraction. Many artists, writers, and entrepreneurs describe their best work happening in a flow state, a moment where thought fades and creativity flows effortlessly. This is exactly what presence cultivates. When you are no longer lost in the noise of the mind, you tap into a deeper intelligence beyond thought. 5. A deeper sense of purpose and meaning. The mind is always searching for meaning, trying to piece together a sense of identity from past experiences, beliefs, and societal expectations. But true meaning doesn't come from the mind, it comes from direct experience. When you awaken to superconscious awareness, you no longer need external validation or rigid belief systems to feel fulfilled. You simply exist in the fullness of the present moment. This brings a sense of effortless joy and contentment, a deeper connection with others, or an intuitive understanding of your true path in life. Instead of chasing happiness, you realize it was here all along, hidden beneath the noise of thought. This isn't just theoretical. Countless individuals, including some of the most respected thinkers and leaders, have experienced life-changing transformations through the power of presence. Figures like Oprah Winfrey, Jim Carrey, and countless mindfulness practitioners credit Tolle's teachings with helping them access a new level of peace, clarity, and purpose. Even scientific studies on mindfulness confirm that living in presence rewires the brain, reduces stress, and increases overall well-being. The awakening is already happening. Right now, something inside you recognizes the truth of this. A part of you already knows that you are not your thoughts, that there is something deeper, something more alive beyond the mental chatter. As superconscious awareness grows, life begins to transform in ways you never imagined. Not through force or effort, but through a simple shift in perception, one that is available to you at any moment. The question is, are you ready to live from that place? Awakening to superconscious awareness is life-changing, but it's not always easy. The mind has spent years, sometimes decades, trapped in thought-based patterns. It won't give up control without resistance. Even if you've had glimpses of presence, staying in that state consistently can feel challenging. So why does this happen? And more importantly, how do you overcome it? In this section, we'll cover the most common obstacles people face when trying to live in presence, and simple, practical ways to move past them. 1. My mind won't stop talking. This is the most universal challenge. The mind is noisy, restless, and relentless. Even when you try to be present, thoughts keep flooding in. Am I doing this right? This is boring. I should be getting something out of this. What's for dinner? Tolle calls this the addiction to thinking. The mind is so used to running the show that the idea of simply being feels unnatural. Solution: don't fight the thoughts. Observe them. Presence isn't about stopping thoughts. That's a common misconception. Instead of resisting, become the observer. Right now, try this. Close your eyes and listen for the next thought. Instead of engaging with it, notice it like a passing cloud. At the moment you observe a thought rather than believe it, you've already stepped into awareness. Thoughts will still arise, but they lose their grip when you stop identifying with them. 2. I keep forgetting to be present. One of the biggest frustrations is remembering to be present in daily life. You might feel deeply aware during meditation or while reading about spirituality, but as soon as you step into the real world, distractions take over. Stress, work, social media, before you know it, you're back in autopilot mode. Solution: use triggers to anchor yourself. Presence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But at first, you need reminders. Here's a simple trick. Attach presence to something you do every day. For example, every time you open a door, pause for one conscious breath. Every time your phone vibrates, bring awareness to the moment. Every time you drink water, feel the sensation of swallowing. These tiny moments pull you back to presence, until awareness becomes second nature. 3. Emotions overwhelm me. When emotions hit, especially strong ones like anger, sadness, or anxiety, presence can feel impossible. The mind tells you, this is too intense to just observe. I need to analyze or fix this. I can't be present while feeling like this. But the truth is, emotions don't block presence, they are gateways to it. Solution: feel it fully without the story. The problem isn't the emotion itself. It's the mental story attached to it. Try this next time a strong feeling arises. Instead of labeling it, I'm anxious, I'm sad, just feel it directly. Drop the thoughts about why it's there. Ignore the narrative. Focus only on the raw sensation. Where do you feel it in the body? Stay with it without trying to escape. What happens? The emotion passes through you faster than ever. Tolle often says, suffering is resistance to what is. The moment you stop resisting an emotion, it loses its power over you. 4. Presence feels boring or unnatural. In a world full of constant stimulation, silence and stillness can feel underwhelming. Many people struggle with presence because it feels like nothing is happening. They expect some grand mystical experience, but instead, they just sit there. And the mind complains, "This is pointless. I don't feel any different. What's the big deal?" Solution: notice the subtle beauty of the moment. Presence isn't loud. It's not dramatic, but it's profoundly rich. Instead of looking for a big experience, shift your focus to small, ordinary details. The way light reflects off a surface, the texture of the air as you breathe in, the subtle hum of life happening all around you. At first, this might seem insignificant, but over time you begin to notice an aliveness in everything. Tolle often points out, when the mind stops demanding something else, what's already here becomes enough. 5. I keep falling back into old patterns. Even after moments of clarity, it's easy to slip back into unconscious habits. You might have days where presence feels effortless, followed by days where you're completely lost in thought again. This leads to frustration and self-criticism. Solution: accept the ebb and flow of awareness. Awakening isn't a straight path. It's more like a spiral. Sometimes you feel deeply aware, other times you feel stuck. Instead of resisting setbacks, welcome them as part of the process. The key is this: the moment you notice you've been unconscious, you are conscious again. It's not about staying in presence all the time. It's about returning to it, again and again, without judgment. The mind will resist. That's a good sign. Here's the final truth. If you're struggling, it means you're growing. The mind resists what threatens its control. If you find presence challenging, it's because a part of you is waking up. Instead of seeing obstacles as failures, see them as signs of progress. Every time you notice a mental pattern, every time you remember presence for even a second, you are breaking free. The shift from unconsciousness to superconscious awareness isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, again and again. And the more you do, the more you realize presence was never something you had to attain. It was here all along. By now, you've seen that presence isn't just a spiritual idea. It's a living experience that can transform your life. When you step out of compulsive thinking and into the superconscious state, everything changes. Mental noise fades. Emotions lose their grip. A life feels richer, lighter, and more effortless. But the journey doesn't end here. Awakening to presence is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Some days you'll feel deeply connected. Other days, the mind will pull you back into old patterns. That's okay. The key is consistency. Even a few seconds of presence, again and again, rewires your brain, shifts your energy, and creates a new way of being. A simple next step. If this resonated with you, don't let it be just another idea in your mind. Apply it. Right now, try this. Take one slow, conscious breath. Feel the aliveness in your hands. And notice the silence between my words. This moment, right here, right now, is all there ever is. Want to go deeper? If you're ready to take your understanding further, subscribe to the channel for more insights on presence, consciousness, and self-mastery. And if you found this valuable, share your experience in the comments. What's your biggest challenge with staying present? Have you had moments of superconscious awareness? Your journey is just beginning. Keep showing up, keep awakening, and remember, you are already free.